Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to this month's edition of the Academy on Air series. My name is Chiel Hendriks, and I work in our agency team here in Canada, focusing on performance. If this is anyone's first time tuning in, this is a regular, bite-sized webinar where we look at covering some best practices and tips on a Google product or offering. As a reminder, we will be sending out a PDF of this presentation to everyone who's tuned in live, along with a survey for your feedback. If you have any questions during the live stream, please enter them into the chat window on the right-hand side, and we'll try to answer them at the end of the presentation. Okay, with that, let's get started and look at our first search function. So today, we'll actually be covering 3 search functions. So we'll start with the first one. I just want to make sure that we focus on proven best practices that will help you drive improved performance across your account. So the first one will be rotating your ads for clicks and conversions. Google sees a lot of searches, trillions of searches a year, and about 3.5 billion searches per day. Massive amounts of queries that users expect an answer to. All these searches translate into many opportunities to get the right ad in front of the right user at the right time. Successful marketers need to deliver a compelling message in the right moment. Better creatives and optimal rotation settings improve ad relevance and drive more qualified clicks from your text ad. However, we can only rotate your ads if you have more than one active ad per ad group. So that's an obvious must-have. Google recommends having at least 3 active ads per ad group. With multiple active ads, ad rotation settings are the logical next step. Set your rotation to optimize for clicks or conversions. The worst thing you can do is to rotate your ads evenly or indefinitely. You can do ad copy testing without rotating evenly or indefinitely. To give you a basketball analogy, say you have Steph Curry on your team. You don't want him sitting on the bench as much as other players on your team. You want him to have as much playing time as possible because he's the best player on your team. It's no different with ads. You want the better ads to show more often than ads that don't perform as well. So therefore, set your rotation settings to optimize for clicks or conversions. So that's the first recommendation for the search function. The second search function that I would like to cover today, ad extensions. Ad extensions are massively important for the success of any search campaign. There's 3 reasons why they really matter. Firstly, you're going to stand out. Ad extensions on average drive 10 to 15% higher click-through rates. We can see even a higher uplift for brand ads. They drive efficiency. Because of the higher click-through rate, we're seeing a higher quality score typically on those ads with ad extensions, and your cost per click will go down, will decrease, so your efficiency will improve. Thirdly, you'll drive better qualified traffic. You're providing more information to your users, you're deep linking to the part of your landing page that you want your users to go to, and therefore users are more likely to perform the intended action of your ad. So let's take a look at some of the ad extensions that are there today. There are automated extensions that you see on the left-hand side on the slide, and there are advertiser-provided extensions that you see on the right-hand side. Now, I won't have the time today to go through all of these extensions, of course, but I want to focus on the ones that are advertiser-provided, those that you can control today. Typically, Google recommends that you have at least 3 ad extensions for all your campaigns. Let's focus on the ones you should start with. Site links, the best and most impactful ad extension in the toolkit. Click-through rate increases are very, very substantial, 10 to 20% and even higher for brand. We see as much as a 20 to 50% lift in click-through rate when we add extensions to brand campaigns. If you don't have site links for every campaign, this is a great place to start. Add them easily in the AdWords interface or through the AdWords editor. Next ad extension I would like to cover is call-out extensions. Once you've put the site links in, I recommend taking a look at call-out extensions. Typically, we see a 10% lift in click-through rate with ads that have call-out extensions added to the campaign. Highlight what makes your business unique. What are some things that differentiate you from your competitors and that are maybe mentioned on your site? And again, you can add these very, very easily in the AdWords interface or through the editor. Thirdly then, so you've done your site links, you've done your callouts. The third ad extension that we recommend would be structured snippets. Structured snippets are a great next step to complete your ad extension coverage in your campaigns. This additional line of text can provide specific information about what you have to offer before users click through and visit your site. So we recommend using this to highlight a specific aspect of your product or service. So for example, amenities might be a 24-hour gym, free Wi-Fi, etc. So those are the three definitely that I would recommend: site links, callouts, structured snippets. So go ahead today and start adding all these three different ad extensions to your campaigns. What this will also allow you to do is to maximize Google to co-trigger. So the different ad extensions interplay, and Google will very often automatically determine which are the ones that should show together and have the highest click-through rate for your ads. Finally, I would recommend that you go above and beyond. Even though Google recommends 3, if you have locations, go ahead and add location extensions. If you want phone calls, go ahead and add call extensions. If you want to drive app installs, go ahead and add app install extensions. But whatever you do, make sure that you cover off the 3 most important ones. Excellent. That wraps up the first 2 search functions. Let's switch to the last area that I want to cover today: data-driven attribution. We should really be calling this data-driven search optimization, because we are talking about a search optimization tactic here. We're not talking about cross-channel attribution. We're not including display, we're not including YouTube. This is purely search. So keep in mind, the next few slides only pertain to search. Some of these callouts might sound familiar to you, right? Our generic campaigns aren't working, our cost per acquisition is too high, or our mobile campaign is underperforming, so I'm going to lower my bids on mobile. However, as performance marketers, we know that very often multiple searches are done across devices before a user takes an action, right? So therefore, we should not be ignoring other searches that are done. Instead, we should be giving them credit. But very often what happens is we're stuck on this last click attribution model. In other words, we're only giving credit for conversions based on the last ad click. Let's look at an example of a user path to a conversion. So say that this user is looking for running shoes. We see 3 searches are done: running shoes, men's running shoes, and Adidas Stan Smith. That last search leads to a last click conversion. So therefore, we might think, that last keyword has been responsible for this conversion. But is it really that last ad that made the user decide to choose your business? In this case, the first 2 searches are effectively ignored. Now, within the AdWords interface, you may know that we have a number of alternative ways in which you can credit your search ads. We've got last click, of course. There's time decay, where the earliest clicks get less credit, and the last clicks, the more recent clicks, get more credit. There's linear, every click is created equal, position-based. Or there's first click, where we give credit to the first click that drove the user to your site. The problem with all these models is that they're fixed and they're arbitrary, and there is a better way to do this. I'll quickly run through 3 steps to get you to the data-driven model, which is the better way of doing things. First, we recommend that you look at your path length. Very, very often, you'll see that there are a number of clicks on your ad that preceded the conversion. Very rarely will we see that it's only a 1-click conversion. In this case that we're seeing on the slide, we see that 39% of all of this account's conversions happened with more than 1 ad click, right? And typically, the longer the path, the bigger the impact of a data-driven model would be. Okay, so evaluate the path length is step 1. Step 2 then. Step 2, by looking at your account's historical data, which you can do by going into your AdWords account, going to tools and attribution modeling, you can play around to see how a data-driven model would have changed the conversions that are attributed to each campaign. In this case, had we not been using a last click model like you can see in the second column, but a data-driven model, the outbound AT brand campaign in this case would have been given a minus 16% credit for conversions, and the outbound IE campaign, which sounds like a more generic campaign, would have been given plus 25% conversion credit. So logically, this data-driven model would have lowered the CPA for outbound IE and increased it slightly for outbound AT brand. Now, important to note in this case is that we're looking at historical data. We're not actually making any changes. We're just modeling what would have happened with a data-driven model. The actual conversion numbers don't change. AdWords looks at all the clicks on your Google search ads, and it is comparing the paths of customers who convert to the paths of customers who don't convert. We identify patterns among those clicks that lead to conversions. There may be certain steps along the way which have a higher probability of leading a customer to complete a conversion. The model then gives more credit to those valuable clicks on the customer's path. So again, we're not making any actual changes here, we're just modeling it into historical data. Step 3 then is taking those insights and switching your model on. So what you can do is log into AdWords and going to the Tools tab, Conversions, Conversion Actions, choose the right conversion that you want to use for your data-driven model, right? If you're tracking multiple conversions, like a site visit or others, focus on the one that matters most. It might be a sale, it might be a sign-on, etc. Once activated on the right-hand side, the model will start to credit the right search ad and allowing you to maximize performance from your AdWords search campaigns. You will now see conversions reported based on data-driven models rather than on last click. And my final recommendation would be that once you've switched to the data-driven model, to combine this with AdWords Smart Bidding, because then you'll also start to change your bids based on the data that you're surfacing in the account. With those 3 steps, you will be onboarded for data-driven attribution, a search optimization tactic in AdWords. I want to leave you with these 2 resources in case you want to further read up on attribution and ad extensions, and also we'll send out the PDF so you have these links available to you. Lastly then, I just want to see if there's any questions, and in case you still have any, please go ahead and type them into the box on the right-hand side, and we'll take a few seconds to go through these here. So first question that we get here is from Kristen: do the actual conversions change when I change my attribution model? So as I mentioned, when we look at the historic attribution modeling tool, we're just looking at historical data. So we're not actually changing the conversions in the account. Nothing changes. It's just purely for you to get a better feel of how would it change things. Things only start to change when you start to bid accordingly. So if you, for example, start onboarding Smart Bidding and you have a data-driven attribution model, that's when the conversion volumes actually might change, because you're starting to bid now on generic terms and other terms that maybe before you were bidding down on. And that will actually start to have an impact. There's another question here from Ram Kumar: is a data-driven model applicable for DCM as well? I'm personally not too familiar with DCM, but I know that if we think of double-click search, for example, we also have the exact same approach there. So data-driven attribution modeling is definitely a component of the double-click suite. Today we're talking about search, and the data-driven attribution model is definitely included in double-click search as well. Let's see, there's another question here from Julie. If you optimize for clicks or conversions, Google will not show your ads the same way. Some ads will have 95% served, while the other only 5%. How do you compare fairly? So this is a really good question, right? So, we want to test different ads. Google loves testing. We love optimizing based on results. So there is a reason why Google starts to prioritize a particular ad and show it more often than other ads, and that is related directly to performance. So you know how I was giving the Steph Curry example? If Steph Curry is there and he's scoring all the baskets, we're going to keep him going. So he might play for 95% of the time, while the other ads that aren't performing as well might only show for 5% of the time. So if you want to test ads and ad copy, the recommendation would be enter multiple ads into your ad group, have them rotate based on clicks or conversions, and the ad that Google prioritizes is the better ad. That doesn't mean that you should pause your other ads. They might still every now and then trigger, in this example that Julie gives, 5% of the time, but the 5% of the time that we show the other ad, that is the best ad for that user search at that right time. Really, really good question, Julie. Let's end with one last question from Aishwarya. At my organization, we have a TV ad running as well as an AdWords. Advice on how to track TV as well as AdWords click attribution. To be really honest, I think the answer to that question, how to monitor the impact of TV ads, goes a little beyond the session that we have today. But definitely I recommend connecting with your Google team on that. We have a number of ways in which we can measure the impact of TV. Brand search volume could be one of those. But definitely follow up with us if that question remains. With that, I just want to thank everyone for the time today. Good luck optimizing your AdWords campaigns. Good luck trying some of the best practices today, and we'll see you at the next Hangout on Air.